Many times on my channel, especially during live streams, I have shown off the chain that I usually wear during the course of the day, and people ask me questions about it. I love to have questions about this. This is one of my favorite pieces of bullion. That's really kind of how I see it. But I was thinking about it earlier today and came up with the idea of, maybe I should just do a video about this. And that kind of spiraled into, well, I could also include this that I usually wear, or maybe that I usually wear too. So now we're talking about a strange video about how much old Dub C is wearing in gold on any given day. If you're new to the channel, I am Dub C, and I want to thank you for being with me. I promise my videos are usually a little bit more serious than this, but I thought we could just use kind of a lighthearted video for this week. If you are new to the channel, I want to thank you for being with me here today. Hopefully you'll go ahead and click on that subscription button, become part of this community. And if you're one of my returning subscribers, you guys are going to notice something's a little bit different right here. Because usually when you're watching my hands move erratically over the course of a video, you see that I'm wearing a ring. I'm not wearing that ring right now. That ring is actually over here. We're going to be talking about that piece too. How much gold does old Dub C wear on him at a given time? And are you wearing a lot of gold? Are you wearing less gold because of its value, because of security concerns? I'd like to hear your opinion about this too. If you're new to the channel, I begin all of my videos with a simple disclaimer. I am not a financial analyst or advisor. I am not trying to offer you any kind of financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold precious metals and rare coins for the last 30 or 40 years. And if you're new to the channel, I like to begin the videos with a couple of concepts that we can kind of work back into it. Since this is just a silly short video, I'm not really going to get really heavy into it, but I do want you to think about safety considerations when you are wearing precious metals, whether it's that gold band Rolex or a really nice chain, if you've got earrings, if you've got something like that. I do think it's incredibly important to be considering where you are and with whom you are, and also if anybody is following you when you are leaving a restaurant, when you're leaving a shop, when it's obvious that you have gold jewelry on you, with gold somewhere in that $3,300 price range right now as I'm filming today. This needs to be a consideration. And it's always a good idea to have that situational awareness too. I don't think you should necessarily blame anybody. You shouldn't be looking at anybody as being a criminal, but be aware of your situations. Look where there are crowds of people. Look where there are people watching you. Be vigilant about that kind of thing if you are going to wear gold jewelry, especially right now with the price as high as it is. So safety considerations, I want to think about it. The first thing I want to talk about is the chain here on the far left. This is what I call my small bot chain, and I could have probably have put bot, B-A-H-T, as one of the concepts that we're going to talk about. This is a traditional Southeast Asian unit of weight. And in that kind of same regard, it is very similar to the idea of a peso, right? In Thailand, the actual currency is called baht. It's also a unit of weight, and because of that, this is also the name that is generically given to gold jewelry that is made primarily in Southeast Asia. They are very traditional in design. And interestingly, the gold jewelry that is bought and sold in Southeast Asia generally does not have much of a premium. If you were to buy a 14-karat gold necklace at a store, a jewelry store at the mall, you would pay 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times the value of the gold. And the gold at 14 karat is only 58.3% pure. Bought jewelry is typically 24 karat, sometimes 23 karat, sometimes 22, but rarely less pure than that. And you don't pay very much a premium. Maybe you pay 5 or 10% over the value of the gold. Generally speaking, the jewelers who are making this type of traditional gold jewelry are from a long family who's been doing this, long line of jewelers who've been doing this for many, many years. And often the smaller stores are run by the family. So there may be the kind of the master goldsmith, and then you'll have a couple of assistants who are cousins or brothers or sisters, daughters or sons who assist them. And this is something that's been going on for generations. I first realized that I wanted something wearable. I wanted something gold. If you know old Dub C, if you know who I am, it's pretty apparent that I am obsessed with precious metals, have been since I was a kid. So when I was able to conclude a business successfully a long, long time ago, we're talking 2005, so it's been right about 20 years ago, I decided that I was going to treat myself to a nice solid gold chain. I didn't want something that was low carat gold, and I would consider 14 karat to be really about the lowest gold that I would consider to be authentically gold. Anything less than that's probably going to be less than 50% pure. That's not something that I am interested in. So I went on eBay, which was in its very fledgling state back in the day, and I found a couple of pieces that looked very interesting. But rather than buy those pieces that all seemed to be about 1 troy ounce of gold, I reached out to the people who were selling those pieces. I actually did as much due diligence as I possibly could back in the day, realized that these people had a long history of selling on eBay, as long as anybody did back in 2005. So I reached out to them, I found out who they were, I asked them a question, we started a conversation, and I asked them, I love the necklaces that you're selling on eBay. Could you make a necklace specifically for me that weighs a little bit more? And we went back and forth over several days talking about this. We finally decided that it would be a 2 troy ounce traditional bot style necklace, and you're looking at some of the links here so you can kind of take a look at what's going on here. It's kind of an oblong box shape. That's what each one of these links are. I know we're going to lose focus a few times. And what's interesting about bot jewelry is that traditionally it has what's called a dragon clasp on it, sometimes called an S clasp, sometimes called a W clasp for obvious reasons. But the interesting thing about the clasps on these pieces of jewelry is traditionally, and you don't have to necessarily get it done in a traditional form, but traditionally they have these gold clasps. Pure gold is so malleable, you can bend it so easily that you literally just bend this section of it opened and slip this out in order to be able to clasp your necklace, and then you bend it back firmly once you've got it around your neck. Now, these necklaces are long enough that I can put them over my head without having to unclasp them, and I very rarely unclasp these necklaces. Both of the ones that you're going to see, I've probably only opened and closed 4 or 5 times in many, many years. There's just no reason to. But you can see that these pieces are both marked 9999 gold, right? 4 nines fine and 24 karat. You don't see that very often in American gold jewelry, but this is a very traditional style necklace called a bot necklace. So I bought this piece in 2000. Let's just talk about it a little bit. 2005. And again, I contacted these folks and we had a conversation. The company was called Atlantic Research, and I don't think they're even in existence anymore. And I believe they were based out of Toronto, Canada. So they agreed to make this piece for me. The cost for a 2 troy ounce solid pure gold necklace, including its manufacture and shipping across the border to me in the Midwest in the United States, $1,120. That means that I was paying about $560 per ounce for the gold, for the manufacturing process, for the profit, and for the shipping. This is one of the best gold buys that I've ever made, and it's one of my favorite pieces of gold. Like I said, I do consider these pieces to be kind of bullion, and I actually include them in the Excel files where I track all of my precious metals. That's how important it is to me. So the total value of this piece today, with gold right around $3,300 an ounce, it is just about $6,600, right? So I made out pretty well. I paid $1,120 an ounce, worth $6,600. I do wear this piece still, and it's always been a favorite piece of mine. But if you're noticing the links, while they are very robust, the actual parts where you clasp this together, or the actual pieces where they're combined, where you see these links joining, these are actually somewhat small. And the expression, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link would always go through my mind when I was wearing this piece. While these pieces are actually thick, broad, wide, and very, very sturdy, the actual chain parts are a little bit small. No smaller than any kind of necklace that you could buy at a mall jewelry store, right? They are certainly more robust than that. But it had always been in the back of my mind that maybe this wasn't the strongest necklace. I do a lot of work, at least I used to, outside, pretty manual. My job required me to do a lot of pretty heavy lifting, a lot of organizing heavy things. There was always the possibility this was going to get snagged on something. So I eventually kind of slowed down wearing it, where it had been something that I wore every single day. And then a little bit later, we're talking about June of 2018, so I guess, about 13, 14 years later, I was able to conclude a long-standing business transaction, something that I'd been planning on for quite a while. That finally came into fruition in June of 2018, and I wanted to celebrate by having a new necklace made that would be a little bit more strong, a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more robust. So I began doing research trying to find another company because I wasn't able to track down the folks who had made this piece originally. And I finally found a place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota. So I'll talk about them a little bit, and I've talked about them before too. June of 2018, celebrating having this business situation come to fruition, I again found these people selling on eBay, and they were very, very nice pieces. These pieces were actually as big as I was considering getting, and some of them were even larger than that. These people had exactly my idea in mind. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were making great, big, heavy pieces of pure gold. So I reached out to them and I asked them if they would consider making something custom for me. And they did. In fact, they specialize in making custom gold jewelry. I've talked about them a lot on this channel. I continue to sing their praises. I do believe they're a really good firm to work with. They're called 9999 Gold Jewelry in St. Paul, Minnesota. They don't have a website, but you can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Instagram also. I think they're really cool. The main jeweler's name, at least back when I bought this piece in 2018, his name was Ming. They are ethnic Hmong that come from China. They are specialists in working pure gold jewelry. This is part of their culture, and they definitely have it dialed in. They know exactly what they are doing. They sell a boatload of this stuff. So I reached out to them when we discussed the weights, the styles, the thickness, and the length that I was thinking about. I wanted something that was obviously heavier than the previous one. I wanted something that was more robust. I wanted something that was maybe just a little bit longer. Ultimately, we didn't decide to go that route, but they offered me lots of different options. And I knew while I like the traditional style with those individual links, I wanted something that was just going to scream sturdiness, and that's what we eventually went with. You can see this is what I call a modified anchor chain. An anchor chain would really probably have bars going across the inside of each one of these links. But for lack of a better word, this is kind of a traditional chain, and this is what I eventually wound up going with. So the specifics on this piece, we discussed that weight, the length, the style, everything else that we possibly could. I came up with the idea of wanting something that was 5 troy ounces. That was more than 2.5 times the size of this one. And again, I had a business deal that had come to fruition. It had actually given me a little bit of money to treat myself. The price of gold, while it had gone up considerably since the original piece, was still what I thought to be kind of a bargain. So 5 troy ounces. I placed my order, and I actually wired the money to them via my bank's electronic wiring service, electronic transfer. They got the funds within a few minutes. They immediately began working on this piece. In fact, I believe they'd already started working on it when I first had gone into the conversations with them. And within 48 hours, not only had they finished this piece beautifully, sent me images all along the way as it was being worked on. They also sent me images of the tracking information and everything else, and it arrived at my location in less than 48 hours. So the time that I actually pushed the button on transferring those funds to them, it was less than 48 hours, less than 2 days before I had this chain around my neck. I think that is amazing customer service, but they're very good at what they do, right? 5 troy ounces was the weight, and the total cost was $7,250. So about $1,450 per ounce. Again, that includes expedited shipping and all the manufacturing costs associated with making this piece, which I think is exceptional. I think it's a beautiful piece. Today, at around $3,300 an ounce, the chain is worth about $16,500. It does cause a little bit of concern when I wear it. And I mentioned that this is my daily wear. I put this on every single day when I wake up in the morning, and it's what I wear. Sometimes, most of the time, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I will have this out. It will be displayed. Nobody knows what this is, right? The bad guys don't know what 24 karat gold looks like. It looks like a fashion chain to most people, I'm assuming. But there's always that issue, right? You always need to be concerned. So take a look at this. I'll do a comparison between this piece and the smaller, earlier piece, and you can just see these are great, big, robust links. It's got the dragon style. They made me an offer of not even having a link on this, right? They said we could actually just solder this into one continuous loop, but I wanted to be able to display this as bought jewelry. I wanted this to be a traditional piece of jewelry that would be recognized by me and by people who actually know what bought jewelry is. And you can see, once again, it's marked 24 karat and 999 fine, right? It's kind of weird when you look at these markings. Your first instinct is there's no way, right? There's no way this is 24 karat. There's no way that this is 4/9 fine jewelry. And again, that dragon clasp that literally just bends open to allow this to be taken off. I'm not going to do it. Like I said, I don't do it very often. This is more than long enough to slip over my head. I want to say this is 28 inches long. So that's the second chain. A value of about 16,500. People, whenever I'm talking about this, ask me, how do you know, right? How do you know that these people, the jewelers that you paid a ton of money to, are actually using pure gold to make this? I asked the same questions when this piece was made. And I believe, and it's been a long time, I believe they sent me a picture of a Royal Canadian Mint 10-ounce gold bar, or a kilo, I can't remember now, where they had literally sawzalled a big chunk of gold off, and that's what they used to make this piece. Royal Canadian Mint gold is obviously a very high purity. There are really nice standards. The folks were nice to have shared that information with me, and I always thought it was fascinating. With this piece, they actually showed me the receipt that they had from APMEX. This is an online bullion retailer, where they had bought 10 or 20 ounces of gold shot, pure gold shot. Gold shot is literally just melted BBs, right? This is the easiest thing for jewelers to work with because it's the easiest thing for them to melt down and turn it into the very beginnings of whatever it is that they are constructing for their customers. It doesn't make a lot of sense to start with a great big gold bar. That's actually somewhat difficult to work with. That gold shot is much, much easier. Pour it into the crucible, you know exactly how much is going in, and you can melt it pretty rapidly. So this piece, I actually went to a metallurgical department at a local college that's not too far away from me. And I was fortunate, and I called them ahead of time and kind of explained that I'd love to have this examined by their experts to see exactly what the purity of it is. And you're looking at the results, and this is kind of cool. You're looking at the XRF machine. And this was done a long time ago. This is something that I did probably 6 years ago, right after I got the piece anyway, so somewhere in that period of time. And they spent 2 or 3 hours with me. I think they just kind of figured it as community outreach, and also they were curious also to see what their equipment would find. Not often do they test a great big heavy gold necklace. So the results, you'll see it here on the XRF, and you're seeing the actual results that we showed. 99.957% pure. If you want to round it up, that is 99.99% pure. So there is obviously going to be a tiny little bit of discrepancy between what the APMEX material was, what 9999 fine jewelry was using, and what the eventual outcome of it was. And I think we are easily within the standard deviation, right? The standard errors here. But it is 99.957, which does round up to 99.99% pure. And interesting, the differences, the balances are the kinds of alloys or elements in this case that you would definitely run into in a very, very high-end laboratory. So it makes me wonder if their data was just maybe a little bit of skewed by, even noise in the air, background radiation, if it was just simply trace elements left on the surface of their equipment due to improper cleaning or anything else, because the balance of this, which is really small, we're talking trace elements here. Again, you're looking at that here. The alloy of it is scandium, chromium, neodymium, and I know that some people like the neodymium magnets, and this is kind of the same element that's used, and samarium, which is also apparently used in rare earth magnets. So you're dealing with some incredibly exotic metals that make up a fraction of a percentage, very, very trace elements for the balance of this piece. Again, it's close enough to 4/9's fine for me. And the questions, does it wear down? Are you ever afraid that this is going to break because it's so fragile? The truth is that real solid gold is not as fragile as our minds have made it out to be, or as I like to say, as the American jewelry industry has made it out to be. You wouldn't want a nice big diamond sitting up high in 24 karat gold prongs, right? Those prongs are going to get bashed against stuff. You're going to lose that diamond. That's not an application that 24 karat gold would be good at. You don't want super fine detail, right? If you're making a ring or something like that that just has beautiful, elegant images etched into it or folded into it, that's probably not appropriate either, because 24 karat gold does what I call peening, and this is P-E-E-N-I-N-G. When I first got this, the very edges, and you're looking at kind of the edge, you see that top bar there, that top area. It was actually almost sharp. That's how fine these had been done. And over time, they have softened just a little bit from being taken on and off, from bumping up against my body and my clothes and everything else. It's been a while, right? I bought this piece in 2018, so it's been 6, 7 years that I've been wearing it daily. It peens over the course of time, but it has not lost any of its weight. In fact, you're looking at the original receipt from 9999 Gold Jewelry when I bought it, and again, $72.50 for the entire price, including its manufacture and its shipping. Today, $16,500 in value. So those are my daily wears. I don't often wear both of them the same time, probably fewer than half of the time, less than half the time am I wearing both of them. But when I do wear both of them, I think it looks kind of cool. And sometimes I'll have one tucked inside my shirt, one will be left outside my shirt. It's just kind of cool to know that you've got 7 ounces of pure gold around your neck. And it does make you feel a little bit, kind of cool. I like it. Anyway, I know some people think it's tacky. Here's a picture of me wearing these chains. I'm going to do a face reveal a little bit later on in this video, believe it or not. And I don't think it looks tacky. I don't think it looks silly. I don't think it looks out of place. I am way too old to be wearing fashion chains, but so be it. When I'm wearing these, you probably wouldn't think that this was 7 ounces of pure gold, would you? I'm asking. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. And that brings us to the wedding band. So this one goes back a little bit further in time. I have been married to a lovely woman for over 25 years now. I know I don't talk about her very often. I often call her my significant other. For security reasons, let's not go into it. But when me being me, and I've been the same way for most of my life since I was a little kid, obsessed with gold, right? Me being me, when it came time to get married, I knew I wanted something that was of a higher carat than you typically see. You have to remember that this was a long time ago, right? Most jewelry stores back then didn't do anything but 10 karat or 14 karat gold. I had a very hard time finding 18 karat gold bands. Honestly, I wanted 22 karat bands, but that wasn't even going to happen. And this was really kind of before I was that comfortable with 22 karat and having something custom made. So I finally tracked down a jewelry store not too far away from here that would order pieces from a company called Art Carved. If that name sounds familiar, they do a lot of class rings. They do championship rings for like the big professional sports leagues, those kinds of things. They are mostly known probably for those class rings from high school and colleges, but believe it or not, they actually have a very large size jewelry kind of wedding ensemble department where they make higher end diamond engagement rings and wedding bands. And they're still around. So this was a long time ago. This was more than 25 years ago. Art Carved was started in 1850. You're looking at a shot from their website right now. They are now part of a conglomerate called Commemorative Bands, or CBI. And they were, again, renowned makers of those championship rings as well as class rings and military rings and those kinds of things. They are located in Austin, Dallas, Waco, Louisville, and Manhattan. So they have facilities all over the country. This is 9.5 grams of 18 karat. I know it's kind of weird to see it off my finger, isn't it? 9.5 grams of 18 karat at $77.46 per gram while I'm filming. And I'll show you a picture of the inside. I don't think you're going to be able to see that very well. This band is now worth $735.87. I don't think I can get it back on my finger because it was a struggle to get it off my finger. You can see I did a little bit of bruising getting it off. So, is that the end of the story? Come with me a little bit further if you don't mind being grossed out, because this next part is a little bit too much information. We are definitely TMI for this part of the story. I have a pretty large frame. I'm a pretty big guy, and I've got a great big mouth. One of the reasons why my voice is so deep is because it echoes on the cave that is my mouth, and consequently, I have enormous teeth also. Over the years, those teeth have taken a beating, and I have a few cavities, not that many, filled over time, probably because of the stress in my life, probably because of gritting my teeth. Some of those cavities, the fillings in those cavities have given away, and that generally results in you having to get a crown. What is a crown? You're looking at a picture of it here. This is when the tooth is probably a little bit too fragile, too busted up, that the cavity filling is no longer doing the job, and you need something else that you can bite down on. So if you're familiar with crowns, you know this whole story, but it's kind of interesting if you've never seen this done before. The dentist takes a great big glob of a compound that is very gummy. It's like chewing gum almost, except a little bit more firm. Shoves it into your mouth and has you bite down as hard as you can. And that creates a negative of your bite, right? That shows you the surface of all your teeth in your mouth. And from that, they take that out and then they pour mold into that negative to produce a positive of your mouth. In other words, it looks essentially like your jaw looks on the inside. It's kind of fascinating. And you're actually looking at a picture of it. This is my jaw, right, done in this exact way. They are able to take that tooth and make an essentially a lost wax version of your tooth out of metal. Sometimes they use gold. In the past, they've almost always used gold. Now they use ceramics quite a bit. But I'm very fortunate that my local dentist, the one that I've been going to for many years, was one of the last dentists locally who continued to produce gold crowns. Now, me being me, I insisted on it. If I was going to get crowns, they were going to be gold. And of course, with me being me, I insisted on bringing my digital scale into the dentist office to weigh these pieces before they were inserted into my mouth. So interesting, you're actually looking at some images of when I was at the dentist office with my little portable scale weighing these pieces. I wanted to know how much gold was going into my mouth. Over the course of the last probably 20 years, I've had 4 of these done, 4 gold crowns. And no, I don't look like Flava Flav from Public Enemy. I don't have a great big gold grill. These are really the back teeth, right? Those molars weighing back. You probably would never even realize that I have them, but I know they're there. A lot of my fellow YouTubers have really cool tattoos. I've never been into that. If I do any kind of body modification, I figure if I'm going to have these done, let me get something that really addresses who I am, and that's gold crowns. So I think it's really cool. The name brand, not only did I take my scale in to weigh these before they were inserted permanently in my mouth, but I actually asked for information and packages and all that kind of stuff from my dentist so I can see exactly what the process was. The first time I had this done, they took me downstairs into their lab. They showed me the entire process. Their technician was really skillful. This is really an art form. If this is something that appeals to you, I definitely encourage it. It is so cool to have part of your body cast in gold. Isn't that cool? I mean, there's just something very primitive and hardcore about that. I like it. So the alloy that was used most often, unfortunately, there was one that was done earlier and I've kind of lost that information, but the one that was used most often was from a company called Ivoclar, and you're looking at the elemental signature of this. It's called Harmony. It is 55% gold, 30% silver, 5.2% palladium. I think that's really cool. 9% copper, and a trace or two of some of the other elements that you see listed there. So I've had this done 4 times, and you're actually looking at, I told you there was going to be a face reveal. Look away if you don't want to see it. This is the inside of my mouth. You can actually see these gold crowns have been inserted, and they have functioned flawlessly for about 10 or 12 years so far. I've never had any issues with them. They've been incredibly comfortable, and I really love knowing that they're there. I just think it's cool. I know, King Dork, right? If you're a precious metals fiend like I am, you get it. This is kind of cool. Let me know if you have these also. These crowns average about 5 grams a piece. I told you I've got enormous teeth and a great big mouth. So if we roughly estimate 4 of these at 5 grams a piece, that is 20 grams of about 14 karat. 14 karat is 58.3% pure. These are 55% pure. But like I said, these also contain a lot of silver and some palladium. So for that, I'm willing to just kind of average it to about 14 karat. I think that's really cool to have silver and palladium in my mouth also. $59.26 per gram for 14 karat right now means 20 grams would be worth about $1,185. And for those scoring at home, it means I have about 2/3 of a troy ounce of gold in my mouth all the time, 24/7. Is that bizarre? I don't know. I think it's cool. If it's not cool, you can certainly leave a comment down below. You're not going to hurt my feelings. It's not like I can take them out. They are not fashion jewelry. So I promised that I would have a little bit of other information, and we're just going to do a quick way of some of these pieces. As always, don't have a scale on a Navajo rug. That's not really what you want to do. But I just figured I'd show you what my ring is that you guys are so used to seeing. We are at 9.5 troy ounces. I think that's what I called it when I was talking about this piece. And it's sure, it may have lost a tiny little bit over the years. It does get a little bit scratched up and banged up, but I love this piece. I really do. It means a lot to me for emotional reasons, for nostalgia reasons. It means a lot to me that I got something that was a higher purity gold than almost anybody had at the time. I really love this piece. It's one of the reasons why you've seen it in so many videos, and you will see it going forward also. Bonus. I liked my bot piece so much when I bought it. When I bought my bot, that I decided that I would give my significant other a Christmas present that was made by the same company. And I racked my brain for a long time trying to figure out what I was going to make. They don't wear necklaces very often. In fact, they don't wear a lot of jewelry in the first place. But I wanted to make something that would be a keepsake for them, even if it wasn't going to be something that they wore on a daily basis. So I contacted Ming at 9999 Gold again, and I said, here's the deal. It's November of 2018. I'd like to have something made custom in time for Christmas. And this was a big ask because they get flooded with orders when it gets closer to Christmas. But because I had just gotten through buying this piece, he was willing to work with me. And I said, I'm going to take it a step further. Rather than just paying you for this piece, let me ship you 2 Krugerrands. So you're looking at the actual Krugerrands that I shipped off in order to have this made. Now, I hadn't paid very much money to have this piece made in terms of its manufacturing. The gold Krugerrands are not 24 karat gold. They are 91.67% pure, 91.7% pure gold. So he was a little bit reluctant at first, but he liked the idea of doing just an exchange of pure gold for a piece of gold jewelry. So he accepted my offer. I sent him these 2 gold Krugerrands back in November of 2018. And we opted to make a bangle that was made of 24 karat gold that she could wear if she ever wanted to. And I think she's probably worn it 3 or 4 times in that period of time. But it's still kind of cool. The result was this piece. This is 1.5 troy ounces. And I mean, hopefully you can see just how ridiculously yellow 24 karat gold is, right? You don't encounter it very often. You don't appreciate just how crazy yellow gold really is. It's not what we're used to when we see 14 karat gold. That's just not the same thing. 1.5 troy ounces of pure gold, and I doubt I'll be able to see it, so I'll give you some images of what the inside of this piece looks like. We got just a little bit of a marking there. I believe that's the 24 karat mark. So you'll see that. I'll show you some pictures. There's a 24 karat mark. There's also a 999 gold mark, and just so you can see, I could lie about this, right? You're probably asking, how do we know that's real gold? Trust me, it's real gold. Believe me, these people know what they're doing, and I kind of know what I'm doing too. But just so you know, 47.1, 47 grams, somewhere in there. Again, we're on the Navajo rug. This is 1.5 troy ounces of pure gold. Today, it's worth about $4,950. So, how much does old Dubsy wear in precious metals on a regular basis? When I'm wearing my wedding band, yes, I promise I'm going to put it right back on again. When I'm wearing my wedding band, when I'm wearing the big chain and the small chain. Let's see if I can go ahead and get this band on so I don't have to worry about it, right? It's kind of weird to not have it on. You guys are used to seeing me with this on for so many years and so many videos. Maybe I'll get it stuck. Wouldn't it be embarrassing? There we go. Oh, that's so much better. I wear the wedding band all the time. I never take it off. This is probably the longest it's been off in 15 years. I wear the big chain almost every single day. I'd say I wear the small chain along with it maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And very once in a while where I wear just the small chain without the big chain. But if I'm wearing everything, I've got the band on, I've got the small chain, I've got the larger chain, and I've got the gold in my mouth 24/7. There's nothing I can do about that. 7 troy ounces pure gold for the chains, 0.23 troy ounces for the wedding band. That is pure gold. That's the actual gold weight. 0.37 troy ounces of pure gold for the crowns, right? We're talking about just the gold, not the palladium, not the silver, nothing else. The total is 7.6 troy ounces of pure gold. And you can do the math and multiply it at $3,300 an ounce. You're talking about a fair amount of gold. I talked before at the beginning of this video, if you're going to wear stuff like this, you don't have to be a tough guy. You don't have to act like you're invincible. If somebody's going to snatch that from your neck, they're going to snatch it and they're going to run faster than you probably can too. It's not about trying to be intimidating. For me, it's kind of flying under the radar. No one realizes what this is. Nobody knows the kind of guys that are going to snatch a chain off your neck. None of those guys are going to know that pure gold is incredibly heavy, and that means that this gold necklace, even as large as it is a gold necklace. It looks like a fashion necklace. This looks like a chain that you picked up at the mall, right? This doesn't look like anything. But I am also very cognizant of the danger inherent in wearing something like this. You won't see me wearing this when I'm going to the big city. You don't see me wearing this when I'm going to be out and about late at night and I don't know the neighborhood. And if I'm going to be somewhere where I don't like the possibility of somebody snatching this from my neck, it goes into the shirt. You're not going to see it. You're not going to notice it. Nobody knows that you have it. Nobody's going to try to take it from you. Be careful if you're going to wear this kind of stuff, right? I will leave a link down to 9999 Gold Jewelry. I think they're amazing. Definitely check them out on Instagram, whether you order something or not. You'll see 200, 300 gram chains and bracelets. They do amazing stuff. It's mind-boggling how much money is going out of that shop. If you have questions about anything that we talked about here, definitely leave a question. I know it's not for everybody. Believe me, I get that. But I think it's kind of fun, and it's who I am. You can't deny that. If you're familiar with the channel, you get that, right? If you're watching this video, you probably get it too. If you have questions, let me know. As I like to say, if you've got a question, there's a good chance somebody else has that question. Let's see if we can answer it for everybody. I air videos almost every Friday evening, a brand new video. I'm usually there during the premiere of those videos to answer questions, to chat with you. And I also go live usually after those premieres. We'll talk about in depth a little bit more about this stuff that we talked about in whatever the video is that premiered. We don't have to talk specifically about that though. The channel and the videos are all dedicated to precious metals and rare coins. So as long as we're staying even tangentially on that track, I don't mind answering those questions. It's a great way to start the weekend. It's very fast paced and lively. I love those live streams. They're a lot of fun. Hopefully you will join me for the next one. Mark your calendar. And that reminds me, go ahead and click on the notification button and become a subscriber to the channel if you haven't yet. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It's just a way to show support, and I would genuinely appreciate it if you become part of this community. I end my videos by saying, always be learning. And this is a fascinating area to learn. If you have any interest in it, I definitely encourage you. This is a lot of fun. Always be learning, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as we go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.